Just a little bit about who I am. My name is Rob Gaines. I am the team leader for the Big Red team. We are in Jeffersonville, Indiana, in Southern Indiana. We have also an agent in the Louisville, Kentucky market, and we have an agent down in Tampa, Florida as well. But primarily we serve Southern Indiana, and that is where our hub is. Our team we have 17 people on the team. It's a mix of leverage through operations, director of ops, client concierge. We have an ISA team, 2 wonderful ISAs on our team. And then we have 9 agents. We also have a showing assistant. Make that 10 agents and 1 showing assistant. And we have 3 virtual assistants as well that help us from everything from transactions to database management. Our goal last year was 200. We hit that number. This year, our goal is 225, and we are on pace as of today to hit that number as well.
I'm Jenny Mateyoke. You want me to just go ahead?
Yep.
I'm Jenny Mateyoke with the Mateyoke Group in Central Kentucky. I'm actually at a Dana's office in Richmond. I have 4 other agents on the team other than myself, plus the director of operations that's also licensed. Did I count that right? No, I'm close. Director of operations, and then I have a transaction coordinator as well as a marketing manager and listing specialist. And then we do have a cyber backer that helps us with some other things administrative wise. Let's see, we did right around 125 transactions last year for about 40 million. And this year, we're not on track for our goal. So I won't even share what that is, but we are on track to probably stay about where we were last year. So.
Good. And last but not least, myself, I'm Ryan Conway. I am the team leader for the Happiness Homes Group here in Central Ohio. I've been an agent for about 15 years now. My team currently consists of myself and 4 agent partners, a director of operations. We have 1 virtual assistant and 1 ISA that are on our team. I don't want to get into units. I don't want to talk about it right now.
Ryan, I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
So we need not talk.
Yeah.
So perfect. There's a couple different team dynamics, and it looks like you all kind of have a different size team. So these are questions coming straight from Dana. She actually emailed me them this morning. So we'll just go from there. Talk a little bit about, I guess, the start of beginning a team. Like, why did you form or raise your hand to do a team versus being an individual agent? We'll just go in that order. Rob, if you just kind of want to, or whoever wants to take it away is welcome.
Yeah, I don't mind going first here. My 5-year anniversary in real estate is tomorrow, actually, which I joined Keller Williams right away. And I joined a team within 3 months because I knew that's where I needed to be, because I've always, coming from the restaurant business, I always ran large teams. So that was comfortable for me at the time to think about teams and leading teams. I took over the team, the Big Red team, almost 4 years ago in 2018. And it was just myself and 1 admin at the time. So for me, it was about accountability. It was about doing what comes natural to me, just being a leader in general and wanting to stay in a little bit of comfort because everything else in real estate was foreign to me. There's a desire that someone helped me get into this business, and I really wanted to pay it forward. I really wanted to help others achieve what I had achieved in my first year. And I saw that the best way for me to do that was to lead the team and to grow it as fast as I possibly could.
I'll be 18 years in the business in July, and I was with a different brokerage for the first 12 years of my career and didn't really know anything about starting a team, just knew that when I was pregnant and looking at having a baby that I could not keep up at the same pace that I had been by myself. So I actually brought on somebody that was a buyer's agent for me. She worked with me for a year, and then from there just kind of grew things. But when I came to Keller Williams, I really learned more about actually building the team per the model, so to speak. And so really for me, it became just a necessity of being able to keep up with the volume that I had and still be a mom.
Yes. I started in real estate straight out of college. So it was right as the market was crashing at that time. So 2007 is when I got licensed and really kind of went into it hard in like 2008 as everybody else is getting out of the market at that time. That's when I was getting in. And it's kind of like we're going through a shift right now. I see this as a great opportunity. I saw that as a great opportunity. Everybody's like talking about how bad it is to be in real estate as the market's crashing. I'm like, there's tons of homes to buy. And I got nothing but high school and college friends that haven't had the credit damage. I mean, they got student loans, but they don't have the same damage from the market crashing at that time. So that's where like my business kind of started at that time. And for probably my mother was an agent as well. She actually started about 2 years before I had and encouraged me to get my license. So she and I kind of worked as somewhat of a partnership, or really just two agents with the same last name for most of the time, working together until about 2019. My mom had to actually step away from the business because my dad got diagnosed with brain cancer at that time. So I encouraged her to step away from the business to focus on that and being his primary caregiver, and really to take over her book of business in addition to what I was working with, and realizing I can't do that alone. I need help and I need support. So at that time is when I started to really begin a team out of necessity. That I always wanted to have more of a team structure to what we did instead of just being solo agents. It motivated me for the beginning as a solo agent to achieve personal goals, to support my family, support my kids, but it was always a goal to start being growing. I guess that situation kind of caused me to grow up to decide it's time to actually be a business owner now. It's time to really create a team and use an unfortunate event as a catalyst for change in my life to step forward and do that. So it's been a course of about 3 years now of some bumps and bruises along the way and creating that team, some setbacks, learning through failure to get to where we are now with it. But
Ryan, I'll let you keep going because that was great. What are some of the biggest lessons that you've learned through all of that? Just kind of having to step in necessity instead of more you wanted to, but you kind of had to at the same time.
Yeah.
What are the biggest takeaways you have from that?
So out of necessity like that, I want to rush into things a little bit more after feeling like, okay, I've been putting back these ideas of hiring somebody and leveraging things out. I studied, went to every seminar, listened to all these classes, all this instruction saying you need to do that. But like most real estate agents, hiring their first person, they get that mindset of, oh, I got to be responsible for somebody else's livelihood. And the fears and stuff that come along with doing that. But then when forced with necessity like that, it jumpstarted me actually taking action on it. So within a month of making that decision, as my mom exited the business, I hired an executive assistant at that time, and then realizing taking on both pieces of business or both sides of our business there, I needed to get another agent that was on team. So it was quick to hire that executive assistant. Within a month later after that, I hired a buyer's agent. And I started to really enjoy that part of having other people that are in this and what I was doing. And then when he had gotten his first couple sales on there, it's like, okay, this is pretty cool. I'm making money off of what other people are doing as I'm helping to lead and guide them. So I started doing that and really going fast to begin with. But what I've learned from the experience of bringing them on, they actually both are neither with me anymore. And so there's later lessons that are kind of learned down the line, but in reflection of that is to slow down to go fast. I was always in a rush, do the next thing, do the next thing, do the next thing. Whereas I wish I would just slow down, be more thorough with each thing, each decision I'm making, and why am I making this? And listen to my leaders, listen to my coach, listen to these things and slow down and be methodical about things. Last year, I have a MAPS coach through KW, Chris Lagarde, who's fantastic. He did a book club for the MRAA book, The Millionaire Real Estate Agent, to have us every week meet and talk through a certain set of pages. And what I had realized was, despite being at KW for about 10 plus years, I had never really read the first 100 pages of MRAA. I just jumped to the back with the charts and the models and got excited about implementing that. And so he had us read that. And I realized the first 100 pages of that book tells you what you're going to do, what you're going to want to do, what you end up doing, and why it's going to fail, and then how you should actually have done it right. And so I felt peer pressure from Gary Keller like 15 years after he wrote the book to actually read that. And just like, he knew exactly what I was going to do wrong. And so it's kind of, if I had known it was sitting on my bookshelf next to me all that time, I would have just gone and slowed down and picked up the book and read those pages to realize some of the failures I'd run into.
Yeah, I feel like that is a very common story with a lot of teams. Jenny, Rob, do y'all have a similar experience with why you created a team or started a team?
Just comment that for me, somebody that I trust their opinion a lot, I was really struggling with, it's one thing to commit to another agent that you'll share business and do that. It was a big thing for me to commit to hiring somebody and actually being an employer. And the smartest thing I ever heard somebody say was, if it costs you $20 an hour to buy back $100 of your time per hour, why are like, this is a no-brainer. And ever since I thought about that, every time I make a hire, I'm like, okay, if I'm going to make this hire and it's going to cost me this, I'm going to get back this, and this, or be able to improve this, or this. And I think that was a big eye-opening thing for me. And I've always appreciated that lender saying that to me, because it just made total sense. Because it is scary when you start a team that not only are you're responsible for yourself, but now you're responsible for other people and other people's business and other people's livelihoods and things like that. And that's something to take very, very seriously. And as I've grown and hired these additional people, every time I'm like, oh my gosh, here's one more person, here's one more thing. You see those payroll reports and that, it's truly about running a business. And I'm with Ryan. I was recruited since day one when they brought Keller Williams to Lexington, Kentucky, which was probably about 17 years ago, and never would go. But I've had this book forever, and I didn't really read it until I came here. And when you do read this and you reference the what to do's and what not to do's, I mean, it makes a lot of sense. And so it's just trusting in the process. And I know we all have coaches. Some of us are coaches as well. And you just, like they say, you got to trust the process and trust that, Gary actually knows what he's talking about in this book.
I think for me, one of the biggest lessons I've learned, and I learned it pretty quick. I got a pretty good slap in the face in the first 6 months when I started running the team, was shared values is not the same as shared goals. So while I really wanted to align myself with people's values, I had this impression after being in the business for a year that everybody wanted to sell as many homes as possible, right? Everybody wanted to make $100,000. Everybody wanted to sell 40 homes a year. And it was like, if you could do it, why not do it, right? And then I found out that while I thought I was recruiting for values, I was I was recruiting for production, and that was a mistake. So, so 3 people left my team within 4 months after coming on, when I first started growing the team, because I was pushing them in a direction that they did not want to go. So that was a eye-opening lesson. Thankfully, I learned that very early on, and I've been very cognizant of that since then, that there's a place for a lot of different people, a lot of different goals on my team. As long as I'm willing to continue to grow, then my team will continue to grow. And it'll take a lot of different spokes in the wheel to make that happen. And not everyone's and we can all have the same culture and the same values, but we don't need the same goals to make that happen.
Yeah, I love that. I definitely agree. So let's talk a little bit more about the model in general. Did you all start your team? I know some of you all touched on this about not starting your team following the model. What advice would you give someone to starting a team or growing a team about how to follow the model, and just kind of where to start with the MREA in general?
I mean, I do believe, I did not start it per the model because I didn't really know the model. So didn't do it, and kind of did some stuff trial by error. I think for me, one of the biggest things, and I would totally agree with Rob, that just because you have these big goals doesn't mean everybody else does. And I had an agent on my team. She was with me 8 or 9 years. And when she left me, I mean, she basically said, I don't want to work this hard anymore. And I thought she and I were aligned. And it turned out that we really weren't. And that's okay. I miss her tremendously. And there's been nobody, she was just my yin to my yang kind of thing. And it was a really hard lesson to learn, to not stop and listen to those people around you. So I would comment on that. But then following that model is so true. And I think for me, one of the biggest realizations, one of the things, and I know she's probably on here, the thing that changed my life was hiring a director of operations. And that was a position that was so abstract to me, because when you look at listing manager, transaction manager, they have very, very specific, tangible kinds of job descriptions, I guess. They're checking boxes, they're doing all these important things for you, and they're very the job description can be very clear. I mean, it can literally be a to-do list of things. And my coach used to push me and push. It took, a year of pushing me to hire a director of operations. And I found out that read the book Who Not How, amazing book. That Who Not How changed my life too. And it wasn't about me procrastinating. It was that I just didn't have the skills needed to do the things that needed to be implemented, and brought this person who basically changed everything. And now there's stuff that actually happens because of her. I'm the thinker and she's the implementer, and she makes things happen. So following that was a harder piece for me to hire, I guess, is because again, it wasn't as tangible as the other things. Does that make sense? To Ryan and Rob, they're like,
It does.
maybe.
I learned through that same process of having somebody in that role before, and then I have an incredible talent in that role today. She's on the call. She's probably blushing. I don't see the group when I say that, but what I learned through the first person I had in that role was I had him start as an executive assistant and then grow into being more of a director of operations, or maybe I pushed them into that a little bit. And I couldn't differentiate between kind of those two roles a little bit, that it is more of a thinker, creator, truly director in that role, and not a task doer necessarily. It's in that, as you said, like the transaction coordinator, marketing manager, listing coordinator, they have specific tasks that they need to go complete, not necessarily create all those things from scratch and lead and manage and oversee that as much. So you need somebody that is a dynamic thought leader that's in that position, that ideally is your opposite, your yin and your yang between these. And so when I was working with my coach, trying to identify who do I need in that role to fulfill that, like we spent a lot of time looking at like disc profiles, KPAs. He had me Colby, like every personality assessment imaginable to understand what makes Ryan, and I get really, really comfortable with what my deficits are and what my weaknesses, and see that as there's somebody else that those are their strengths, and they're going to want to take those responsibilities off of my plate. That is a great opportunity for them to do that, instead of trying to manage and control everything. I remember hearing, it was a quote by Gary, I heard on the One Thing podcast, where he said that like a solo practitioner, entrepreneur has to be good enough at so many things and to achieve success. And they do it for so long that they convince themselves that they're great at everything. And then they have a hard time letting go and passing those responsibilities off to somebody else until they meet that talented person that realize they're not nearly as good at it as they thought that they were. And it's exciting to get rid of those responsibilities when you see that talent.
Well, and it's so funny because you'll see in the chat that it appears that I made that comment. No, that is my director of operations that told somebody where to go find job descriptions.
Yeah.
I wish I could take credit. That's Lauren. So see, that's the epitome of what she does for me. So
I think for me, how I follow the model, one thing that I'm very cognizant of is the balance of leverage, meaning production versus or leverage in operations versus the agent count on my team. So if you don't, the model is written so that balance is key here. And if you don't have that balance, if you get out of alignment and you have more agents than you have support staff, if you will, then you quickly lose value to the agents and the agents leave your team. So you've got to identify what that balance looks like. I mean, every quarter, probably every month, myself and my leadership team are asking ourselves, who's next? Who's our next hire? What's the missing piece of the puzzle right now? And where do we go find that piece of the puzzle? That's one of the biggest things from the model. If I was going to give advice to somebody about following the model, I would say read the MREA every year, because every time you read it, you are coming from a different perspective. So if you read that, I read it every December intentionally, so I can start the year off with that mindset of where am I missing the boat when it comes to the models. Because I'm a MAPS coach and I've been that way for almost 3 years, and I still find myself skewing away from the models, and I'm not ashamed to admit it because we all fell forward. And yet, if I read the MREA, it centers me back on where I should be headed and what I should be doing and where I should be listening to Gary, like what Jenny and Ryan have said. He knows.
Yep.
There's also a great course out there called MAPS Models. And if anybody wants to register for that, it's a great course. It teaches you all the models that are in the book at a very high level. MAPS Models. They teach it 3 or 4 times a year, both in person in Austin and digitally. It's a great course to attend.
If I could add on to that too about the models, what's really powerful is that it kind of normalizes the conversation. So when you do stuff like hiring a MAPS coach or you attend different masterminds within KW, when we're all speaking the same language around that, there's even more synergy and more knowledge that can be gained as long as we have that foundation that's around those models. Otherwise, if you're not following those and you join those conversations, this is going to be like drinking from a fire hose, and you're not going to be able to participate and really gain any of that mind share by not having this as your base education.
Good point.
I'll go back to what Rob said about how, like he was talking about bringing value to your team members. How do you all feel like that you consistently bring value to your team, and not just the ops side up, but also the agents as well?
I think we do a lot of different things. I think there's so much opportunity, opportunity. Number one, as you grow as a team and you have that camaraderie, I think that's the one thing that I've loved about what I hear from our agents is that they always have somebody to turn to, somebody to help, somebody to, plug in. Today, a showing or a closing got rescheduled on me. I can't be there. One of the agents stepped right up and stepped right in. We do a lot of fun stuff together. I mean, that's actually part of our mission is to have fun doing it, while we're doing real estate. And so we do a lot of different things there, different things, weekly growth huddles for each individual agent as they track and are moving through their own personal goals. Because like Rob said, I thought in the beginning, oh, here's my goal and I need you to sell this many. And now it's more like, okay, here's what I want to do as a team. Where do these individual people fit in? And how big do they want their business to be? And then how many more people do I have to go to help get to my goal that I want for the team? And so when I learned that different strategy and that different mind shift there, really focusing on each individual agent and how we can grow them individually. Right now they're coaching with my coach, just as a fun little thing for them to do. Over the next couple of months. So just, I think different opportunities like that, because we do weekly team meetings and we do we do fun outings together. There's just so many things I think that we add the value. And when you have a lot of experience on the team or different scenarios, we call it what would Jenny do kind of thing every week, talk through some different scenarios, what issues they've run into. We do script practice together. I think there's just a lot of ways to connect within the team as much as you want to. And build value there.
Yeah, I think it's important to define what your value proposition is to the agency you're bringing on to the team, and recognizing too, what's the alternative going with being a solo agent. We've all been solo agents at some point doing this, and you have to the drive of why people get into real estate is so that they can choose their own hours and have all this freedom. And then you find out you're working a lot more hours and and doing all these different tasks that are sometimes outside of your comfort zone, and they're distracting from the things that are most important. So you can go through your day trying to handle all these different responsibilities by yourself, and then realizing, was I actually productive today? Did I actually achieve anything? And so by the reason somebody would join a team is a lot of the same reason why we even start a team, is because we want to be able to remove some of those hats and pass those responsibilities onto other things. So use that leverage for us as the leaders to go further and to net and make more money and better return on our time. And we want to offer that same thing to the people that choose to partner with us on a team by reducing the amount of auxiliary type tasks that may not be their strong suits. They're going to be distractions and taking away from their bottom line as well. So the more that we can support the agents doing really the four most important things, which are lead generation, conversion, holding appointments, negotiating contracts, and attending closings, the more we can do to support that while removing and minimizing the distractions and anything else that may not be their strong suit, we all win better together by doing that.
We start every team meeting on Monday morning. We start with the same mission statement, and I say it out loud to everybody, as our goal is to create a big enough opportunity for every member of the team to achieve both their personal and professional goals. And that's the mission statement that we say over and over and over again. And what that has caused to happen, we've been doing that for about 2.5 years now. And when I'm not growing enough and providing enough value, people feel obligated on the team to come to me and say, Rob, you talk a big talk, but what are you doing to help us grow? So we started an investment club this year to help everyone on the team, not just agents, to grow in wealth from a dollar standpoint, but then also talking a lot about wealth when it comes to just living a rich life, right? So one thing I don't think I've heard yet was just the talk about leads. You know, everyone wants to know, well, how many leads are you going to give me? And that's the value of a team. Gary Keller in the last 4 or 5 years has shifted from the lead conversation about, 50-50, 50% of the leads of the agent's closing should come from the team, and maybe 50% come from the agent's sphere. And in more and more masterminds, he's talking about a 75% of the closings come from the leads from the team. So, and he said that's kind of the direction we're going, because we're all being lead aggregators ourselves as teams, collecting leads and then giving those to the members of our team. That's only part of the value, though. It's what people expect from a team is that value, but what they really get is accountability, and they get support, they get encouragement, they get coaching. And people that are in this business generally as entrepreneurs, they don't think they want to be managed or held accountable. And yet they can choose that life and then not be successful in this business, because without accountability, we none of us would be here today, right? Mm-hmm. So, but the value that the team provides, it's the value in the fact that we're going to keep growing to help them grow to the extent they want to grow. We're going to provide leads. We're going to provide training. We're going to provide coaching. We're going to provide accountability. Bottom line.
And I would wholeheartedly agree with that. I hear recently the word is discipline, because it's so hard during the summer when, you want to head to the lake, or you want to take the day off, or you've worked really hard and you showed houses all day, and now you're like, oh, I didn't do my lead gen. Well, we talk all the time. What you're doing right now is going to show up in 60, 90 days. And if you don't want any closings, then take the day off. But, I think there is a lot to be said about the accountability factor too. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
All right. Let's talk like agent splits, revenue, the financial stuff that probably is the first question when bringing someone on your team. Why do you all find that sticking to the model is better than creating your own splits? Or Dana had that a lot of agents are on 90-10, a lot more than you would normally think. So what's been your all's approach to the agent splits and revenue?
So you want to give as much, in my mind, as much as you can to the agents, yet if you're not able to support providing them value from leads and provide them value from operations, then you really, in the long run, you're only going to have agents on your team for 1 to 2 years at most, and they're going to leave. Because you're not positioned, you're not leveraged dollar-wise to be able to provide them extended value and growth. Because what happens is if you're at a 90-10 or even a 75-25 split, you end up having to stay in production at a very high level. You're going to be the winning producer on your team. And then you can't go out and help them grow other businesses. You can't help them go out and do other things. You can't coach them and train them because you're too busy being the lead agent on the team, because you have to make your money there because you're not making any money on the other side. And one thing I would say is for everybody listening, if you're thinking about starting a team or you've already started a team, you can't take it back. If you do, you're going to start over. All right. So once you commit to a commission, you can't take it back. So remember that. So read the book, follow the model from the beginning, or you're going to have to do what a lot of us have done is at some point down the road, you're going to have to slap yourself across the face and decide, I'm going to go ahead and redo it all because I didn't trust Gary from the beginning and now I'm paying the hard price.
Yeah, and I would agree with that. I think one thing that I did that really helped me, because, you know, you always wonder, are you giving enough value? Why should this person give you X% of their commission? Those kinds of things. And when I looked at my complete operation, I said, okay, if they send just listed postcards, if they bought these leads, if they did this for their sphere, if they did these client events, if they had to pay for a transaction coordinator, a listing manager, if you added all of this up, I looked at what it would cost an agent. It's about $128,000 a year to recreate what they get as a part of being on the team. And when I look at it from that standpoint, I've had agents go like that now been on a team. They were an individual agent, came to the team and she's like, this is amazing. Like I just turned my folder over after I got them under contract and Rachel took it from contract to close and got it done and did all this stuff for me. And she went on to do her 20%, you know, what should you be focusing on? And she could get rid of all that other stuff that usually agents aren't very good at. We're good at meeting with people, selling people, talking to people, you know, bringing them in, and it gives them an opportunity to focus on those bigger ticket items. And it also means they're not at 9-10 o'clock at night, sitting in front of their laptop, filling out those fun forms from their attorney's office and doing all, I mean, if you asked me to fill out anything in command, I would be lost. I have no idea. And I don't want to know. So I think those are big things when, you know, people, when you look at what you've created and what they get and they step right into it and roll with it. So
I would guess that most agents that are giving out those incredibly favorable splits out there are not in relationship with their profit and loss statement. So actually look at that and understand the profitability of running that business and plugging in those numbers of giving up that much of the commission split to what it does to your cost of sale, to in addition to that $128,000 of value expenses that are on there. There may not be money left, or they may be losing money on that. They might actually be still selling homes and in production themselves, but netting less money because they have that team versus if they just want to end it by themselves.
You put a ceiling on your team. You never truly can get to a 7th level team if you can't remove yourself from production, because your income is dependent on your production, which means you really, I mean, once you get to about level 5B, if you're looking at the org models, you start to really struggle with pulling yourself, making yourself available to grow your team, to do career visioning and the things that matter most to grow the team the right way. You just can't do those things, and you can't be there for your team if you're the lead agent all the time.
yeah, and let's be real here. I'm still in that struggle zone, people. So I'm in that spot. I'm in that, you know, weekly huddles plus this plus that, and then trying to lead gen and do my own thing. And you know, you start off on a Monday and find out all these people that we're going to list, somebody's dad died, this happened, that happened. You're like, holy cow, there went 4 listings I was supposed to have in the next 2 weeks. And then you're back at, oh, by the way, I got to help my team. And so it is, you do get to that part where like pushing to the next level it's a little challenging. And, you know, you make a little less money, but you have a better quality of life in the long run.
Jenny, that's a great point that I think is underestimated there. Is it at some point, when is enough enough? Gary Keller asked himself the same question every year. When is enough enough? And you got to ask yourself that too. And what's more important, time or money? You can always make more money, but you can't make more time.
Amen. That's for me personally, like where my goals are at is to actually move out of production. I'm still in production today, but I want to move out from that because I got 2 small children. I got a 7-year-old and a 5-year-old, and I want to be there for their sporting events. I want to see all those things and not reacting to what's going on in the market, pulling up the MLS, checking what's new, what's anything getting posted on here, responding to client messages and missing out, seeing their sports, seeing their events right in front of me, but I can't see it because my phone's in my way because I'm doing that. And if I'm able to leverage people better at that and move myself out of it, I can be more present. It's not always a monetary, I mean, there is a monetary value of being able to do that and support and buy that time back. And it's being very purposeful and intentional and growing that team to support that goal and doing that.
If you manage your splits to the model, you will find that your dollar per hour rate, what you make, actually increases dramatically. Because you could have 10 agents working for you all on a split. We won't discuss the splits, but you know what I'm talking about. You know, you can have them on a decent split. And what if 10 agents in 1 week got an accepted offer? I mean, that's the same as you getting, you know, how many offers yourself. And yet you were at your son's ball game or something, you know? So I love it every week when the team goes out and crushes my numbers, because all I know is, okay, at the end of the day, the whole team grew, not just me.
Yeah. And I've mentioned on here about the profit and loss. Like if anyone was thinking about starting a team, I highly recommend taking the MAPS program, Profit Camp.
Yes.
Getting really, really comfortable with that. And I'd also recommend reading Profit First by Mike Michalowicz. I think I did pronounce that right. Mike M. Doing that is reading that book and understand that, and then also getting in a relationship with a great bookkeeper. I don't know if I'm allowed to promote anybody specific on here, but my MAPS coach introduced me to Michael Alleman, who's based out of California. He has gone through Profit Camp multiple times himself, and he's able to do your books according to the budget models of the MREA. And it's fantastic to get that report every month and see not just the numbers of where they're at in the different sections, but also adhering to the percentages that are recommended by the MREA. That if you feel like you might be off or you know, I feel like I'm spending a bunch of money here, I feel like I'm not making money, you can actually go and look at that and make the tweaks and adjustments and go and redline stuff that is clearly not making a return on the investment on there. It's powerful to see that. And it's nice to put in the hands of somebody else versus if you were doing it yourself on that, because you're going to have an emotional connection to some of those numbers that you have in there. Whereas it's nice to separate that, especially as somebody that's way better at it and want to spend that time doing it. And it's really inexpensive too.
Yeah, I'd use my local bookkeeper but made her adhere to the MREA model, which took a little tweaking to get there, but it is really neat when you can watch those percentages and see things as they come in and whether you're on model or not and where you need to tweak.
Absolutely.
What was the name of the book that you mentioned, Ryan? It was in the chat. Somebody was asking.
Profit First. So,
oh, okay. That's in there. Okay. Profit First.
Mike Michalowicz. He's also got another great book called Fix This Next that my MAPS coach took me through as well, that ask a bunch of different kind of probing questions about your business to identify like where do we need to place our focus as we grow forward? Where do we have deficits, from the client experience to the team building to profitability, paying down debt, all sorts of stuff like that. Fantastic author.
Ryan, where would somebody find Profit Camp? Is that through MAPS?
Yeah, it is through MAPS. I think they actually have one coming up here soon.
Okay.
It's a 3-hour digital course. It's best $79 you ever spent.
Okay. Teresa, I'll look and see if I can find a link to that and post that in the closed groups for you all. And then what was the name of the bookkeeper that you mentioned that follows the MREA?
Mike Alleman. So it's Alliman.
Okay.
I believe he's roughly about $189 a month for handling all the bookkeeping and putting it to the MREA structure.
Oh, I might need to switch. I pay $250.
Take Jenny some money. I feel good now.
Yeah, look right there, shaving some off. Every little bit helps.
There you go. So Rob, are you completely out of production at this point? I know you touched on that a little bit.
Nope. I sell, I sell about 50 homes a year, but I do it in 10 hours a week. And that's just leveraging the team. So, and it's who I work, it's people I want to work with, but I give more leads to my team. People call me and my team's going to receive many more leads than I'm going to actually go service. So, but I'm not the top producer on my team, thank goodness. So,
Okay. Do you think you'll ever be out of production or?
Yes.
Okay.
I have an 18-month plan to be out of production. At that point, out of production means like 10 deals a year.
Cool. Let's see. Another one on here was, how do you conquer the fear of someone leaving your team and taking business? Jenny, I know you definitely have a personal experience with this.
Yes. And it, another agent that kind of went through some similar tough love kind of stuff said, you just kind of got to get over it. I will say that my buyer's agent agreement, this is probably not 100% model, but I do let some agents do listings as they grow and become more in this business. But so an agent on my team, there is a very clear understanding up front when you leave the team, if that's your choice down the road, of what to expect, what that exit agreement is going to look like. They get a sample of that. They have a confidentiality non-compete agreement. It's been recently tweaked by an attorney out of necessity for some things. And here's, the simple truth about it is that you'd like to think that everyone is going to be fair and honest with you and not go after business or take it or do whatever. But the simple truth is some of that you're just not going to be able to stop it. It stinks. It hurts. I got one that, my agent was so great and she'll tell you, I taught her everything that she knows. She's amazing. I love her to pieces, and people call her to do business with her. And they were the last point of contact that she had. What am I going to do about that? We did have a 1-year agreement that anything that happened up to 1 year after she left, this is how things would be handled. And then after that, I can't stop people from going. I would want to do business with her. I used to joke that she was a better agent than me because she's just that awesome. And so it's going to happen. It's the ones that are sneaky and devious and do some super underhanded things that you're like, I really thought I knew this person. That's really hard to swallow. But there are means of going directly to the broker to address that issue, especially when you have something in writing. And I think that's the very best advice I can give is have a very good agent agreement, have a good non-compete confidentiality agreement. And then, and when you say non-compete, it doesn't mean they can't just sell real estate in this market. That's crazy. Nobody would ever sign that, but it's about what came from my business and what came from my team and our efforts and that kind of thing. And then the other thing is providing them with that sample exit agreement in advance, so they know exactly how we're going to handle things when they do exit the team, if that should happen. But those 3 pieces of those 3 agreements are super critical, 100%.
I would say conquer the fear of losing someone is to reshape the thought process around that losing someone can actually be an opportunity. One that might be holding you back, but it's a good chance to get some feedback from it and realize, why are they leaving? What are the reasons? And some of them may be, completely invalid. It might be more about them and the self-recognizing their way out of the business or into, maybe I'm not meant for a team. But it's a good chance to get some feedback on where the deficits in your business might be and the value proposition to your agents, that there might be 1, 2, 3 different things you can pull from that, and then be able to address those issues and add value to the members of your team that are still with you. So they could also have been experiencing some of those things too. And if you can button that up and take that opportunity that somebody gave you with that honest feedback of exiting your team, it can only add value to what you're doing.
And, and it is fun to see some of the, them succeed too, because you're like, that you helped start them or get them going and taught them what you knew. And, while it's sad to lose them or something, along those lines, then I also look at it that way. It's kind of a little bit of a compliment. They went out and did their thing and they're successful and they're doing a great job. So
For me, I hear this saying a lot, and I attribute it to Ryan Fellows, who is a fellow MAPS coach that works out of the Southern Indiana office. Progress, not perfection. So when I'm working with agents and I realize that they're going to leave, I'm not worried so much about the business they might take, because that's in my mind, it's a little bit of a scarcity mindset. And plus, I can't prevent every little detail, if I worry about every little client that they met 2 years ago at an open house, and what are they going to do with that person in 3 years when they go to, I would just crawl under at the desk and cry. So can't worry about that stuff. It's the bold law of fear or faith, you choose, right? So, and I'm going to have faith that people are going to do the right thing, and I'm going to partner with people that are going to do the right thing up front. And then at the end of the day, though, I know that myself and my team are going to win. And if someone parts ways, I wish them luck and success. And I'll go out and find 2 other great people in the next 3 months to replace that person. So it's again, it's good. It's what Gary Keller and Keller Williams has taught me the most is that abundance mindset. So versus a scarcity mindset. I lived too many years with a scarcity mindset.
Rob, connecting what you said in there too about like getting those conversations kind of up front and find that stuff out. You said earlier, talked about career visioning. You mentioned that, like, go through those steps. Like, don't just get a resume, like the person, hey, we can have a conversation. I like, hey, nice shoes, something like that.
Yeah.
And all right, we could be friends. We can do this together. It's actually go through those steps. Do the KPA, the Keller Personality Assessment. Those things are invaluable. The information will get there because nobody is perfect that's going to come in a role. There's going to be some deficits. That's probably one of the reasons they're going to join a team, is that they might have even recognized them, or they don't recognize them, and you're going to help to identify where their gaps are at to help fill those for them and find their place of where they fit and how you can help them to overcome that stuff and succeed. And you can have those conversations up front, challenge, poke some holes in some of those things where there might be deficits. And are you going to be okay with doing these things? If somebody's not going to have that drive to do lead generation and following up with leads and doing that, it's going to probably show up in some of the results of that KPA. And you can have that conversation. Are you prepared to do the things that are necessary to do this? And figure it out before you invest money on it. I think my coach was just talking about what's the cost of making a bad hire on the operations or admin side. And it's maybe 2 to 3 times, but salespeople on there, the time and money they're going to invest into them, and they take off on you, it can be as much as 10 times the cost that you have into it for losing. So it's important to slow down and take that time to have those conversations and work through that stuff up front, instead of finding us out on the back end and learning more expensive lessons.
Dana would be really proud of you guys for bringing that up, because I know Linda McKissick, she talks about how many times Linda McKissick made her take the career visioning when she was with the region, and it's a lot. And I think one of the things that we love about that career visioning process is that team interview, because there have been some people I've been like, okay, well, I think they sound good. And they met with them and they're like, oh, Jenny, we kind of thought this, this, and this. And I'm like, ooh, I can see that. And then we didn't ask somebody to join the team. And I think in the end, those were good decisions.
One of the guiding principles that I have, I come from the restaurant business, and I think about what it would be like to open a restaurant with somebody, and you wouldn't meet them for an hour and then decide to open up a new business with them. So I think about every one of my team, and whether it's an admin, an ISA, a showing agent, or an agent, they're all business partners. So I want to interview them for 2 weeks to know that I'm getting in business with somebody who's a great partner and who thinks we're in alignment from our thinking and we're in alignment for our values. And if I do that, then I don't have any fear down the road. If they leave, it's because they left for the right reason for themselves. So
Yeah,
they're partners, they're not employees.
Right.
All right. I want to be respectful of everyone's time, but I also want to get to these questions too. Real quick, if you all would just touch on what running a team has done for you all personally in your life, and then what's the key to running a highly successful team, just production and culture wise?
I'll just jump in. I'll kind of piggyback what Ryan said. You know, for me, when I had my son, I just knew that I couldn't keep at that same pace. And I'm blessed that I don't miss his soccer games. I don't. Today, I got to drop him off at pick up soccer. I'll pick him back up at 3 with his friends. You know, those are great things I get to do today. That's even if it's just a 20-minute car ride. I mean, with 13-year-olds, it's very interesting. 13-year-old boys. So I think the quality of life that it's provided for me has been just something that is, I don't know, I'm just so glad that I did it. And I don't make as much money, but it's okay. At the end of the day, I'm at home and I make dinner and I get to do those things with my family. That's super important to me. And so I've learned a lot over the years, definitely, because I can take everything from what Rob and Ryan both said, that, you know, don't come from a scarcity mindset. You can't have the fear of people taking business from you because you'll never do anything. It's like, you know, I'm not going to track down every single little deal that somebody has. I'm going to trust that they're going to do the right thing. It took a little bit to get there, because once you've kind of been bitten really hard, you're like, whoa, that hurts. But at the end of the day, you know, you hope to surround yourself with really fantastic people that hopefully you can impact their lives as much as they have impacted yours. And I think that's for me when I shifted from here's leads, you know, run, go. And this person's like, Holly, I'm doing it because she's asked me to, but you're finding out that they don't really want to. And now it's more about what do they want? How do they, if they only want to do 20 transactions, great. That just means I have to have a few more people that want to do 20 transactions. And then I got one that wants to do 50, fabulous. You know, whatever that looks like. I think it's just, you grow and you learn, and, you know, coaching has been 100% massively critical for me. And I think anybody that's trying to run a team, anybody that's in real estate should have a coach. They hold you accountable. They're your accountability factor in this, you know, game of real estate. And so I can't say enough about that too, because without them, I don't think I wouldn't be where I am without coaching. So that's another key thing of just biting that bullet for that expense, and just know that you're going to grow from it and you're going to learn and you're going to have a partner with you. You know, that's the key, is finding that right. Because I've had bad coaches, you know, those are awkward phone calls where before they were Zoom calls, they were phone calls, and they'd say, well, what do you think you should have done? And then there's dead silence. And I'm like, well, I wouldn't have asked you if I knew. So I think when you find that partner in a coach, that's also something that's really key to things. So I'll shut up now.
I would just, because I'm a MAPS coach, I would say, think of coaching as an investment, not an expense. I know where it shows up on the P&L. Don't ask me that question. Yet it's an investment. All right. How running a team has changed my life. Leverage is one of the key things, right? I get to leave the country in a couple of weeks for 2 weeks, where I will not have anything, access to email or cell phone or anything. And I know and I trust that my team has 100% has my back, and it's going to run great. Actually, it tends to run better when I'm not here than when I am here, because they're great people. Gary Keller says when we hire talent pushes us. And so that's another great benefit of running a team, is the people that I've surrounded myself with, because I follow the process and I follow career visioning. There's no plug for Dana. They push me to grow faster than I'm comfortable with. They keep me uncomfortable. And that at the end of the day is a great thing, right? So talent pushes us. All right. If you don't have someone pushing you, then ask yourself, do I have a talented person on my team? Doesn't matter the role. If they're talented for that role, they're going to push you to grow and to be better. And that right there, I could not have imagined. Gary says this, and Jim Rohn said this, and other people have said this. You overestimate what can you accomplish in 1 year, and you underestimate, sorry, let me say that again. You overestimate what can you accomplish in 1 year, and you underestimate what you can accomplish in 5 years. My 5-year anniversary is tomorrow. And 5 years ago, I could not have even dreamed a tenth of what I've accomplished in the last 5 years. But it was through talented people helping me get there that was made possible. Period. End of story.
Yeah, I'm gonna echo the same thing as them, as the self-growth and pushing yourself. You can running as a solo agent for a while, you can get into that kind of monotony of success of doing the same thing over and over again, and or running a team or doing anything like that. And you can become complacent, whereas having other people around you that can help push you and challenge you to reach further with untapped potential, and it makes this whole thing more interesting. It makes it more fun, pushing to do those things, stepping outside of our comfort zone and becoming better than what we could have even imagined. Just like Rob said on there, he would have never predicted where he would be where he is today if not having those other people that are helping support him to become what he is today. And I feel that exact same thing, is the growth is powerful. And when you grow yourself and the lessons learned, there's value you bring to other people outside of this too. I know I can go back and help my wife with her business as well, from the models and all that I learned from all the great education that KW provides me, and from my coaching and everything I take it home. She gets a little tired of hearing it sometimes coming from me and wants me to take off or, turn that off sometimes. But the team and running a business like this does provide that flexibility, as I said before, being there for the kids and being able to be present at those. I remember before having kids and asking other adults or seniors to me that have had kids and stuff, what do they remember, what do they regret, things like that. And it was always working too much, not being present for those things, not changing diapers and stuff like that. It was there, and missing on just like these little things that are important in your kids' lives. Like, you can't get that time back. And by being able to have success and leverage through others, it provides you that opportunity to really be present and spend that time. So that's what's been powerful about it for me.
Well, I think that was a home run right there. That seems like a good place to end. If anybody has any questions, we'll stick around for a couple minutes, but if not, I appreciate your all's time. This was great. Lots of great stuff on here. And I'll post the recording too in a week or so on our YouTube channel and on Facebook, so you all can have that as well. Any last remarks, questions?
No, I'll just put out there, if anybody, ever wanted to reach out directly, and, I'll be happy to help in any way I can, point you in some directions, that kind of fun stuff. So learn from our mistakes. That's what I say.
Absolutely. There have been plenty.
Yes, there's definitely, it's that fail forward, just keep failing forward. I'm like, I'm good at that.
Yes.
I'm going to put in the chat the contact information for that bookkeeper that I mentioned too. So you guys don't have to chase that.
Let me get that.
Yeah, he's in there.
Cool. Thanks, Ryan. The name of the YouTube channel, it's One Team YouTube, but the videos are actually unlisted right now. So if you're on, I'm guessing you're Fort Worth, drop your email in the chat and I will, I'll send you the Google Drive to all of our trainings for the One Team. Cool.
Thank you all very much.
All right. Thank you
Thank
all.
you. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
See you all.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.